G'day guys, welcome to Beyond the Spectrum pod. In today's episode, I'll be talking to Katie. I've known Katie for quite a while. I've worked with her child Cooper as well as her daughter. I've done some sessions with Grace as well. So they've had quite a story and been through quite a lot. So have a listen. And if you've got any comments, queries or feedback, please let us know. And if you would like to be a guest on our show, please email me at info@autismandbeyond.com.au. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
G'day guys, Clint from Autism and Beyond here, joining with a special guest on yet another podcast. I'm joined by Katie today. Thank you very much for your time, Katie. I appreciate how busy parents are and fitting this sort of stuff in, but I certainly think that sharing stories allows the opportunity for other families to hear and grow and make things a bit easier for them. So let's get straight into it. Who are you? Include what sort of work do you do, or how do you spend your time?
How do I spend my time? Kids. I'm actually lucky enough to be able to do some work really close to home and with the school that my children are in. I work as a dance teacher, and my daughter is then able to do as much dance as she likes within their program. So yeah, so that takes up very little of my time. I haven't managed in the past to have a job anymore. Bookkeeping is my background. A lot of it is school, therapy, kids, meetings. I've got 2 kiddies. And it's just the 2 children and myself. Their father doesn't live nearby, and all of us neurodivergent at very different spots in the spectrum. So it's fun and games in this house.
And how old are they now? How old they must be getting on?
Yeah, so I've got a son who is 11 and a daughter who's 10.
I was trying to think before, how long have I known you guys for quite a while, like off and on for,
yeah.
I don't remember when we first started.
Oh gosh, that would have been 2018, 17 maybe.
Yeah, okay, so it's been a little while. Been at it for a bit, hey? So,
yeah, because they were quite tiny when they first met you.
And compliant back then too. They would listen to me.
You got too familiar. See, that's the thing. You don't want to do that.
So obviously diagnosed. You've got a diagnosis with all your meetings. Do they understand, or have you spoken to them about it?
Yeah. Look, we're very neurodivergent positive. We know that it means we do have limitations, that things are more difficult, but that there is this other side of it that's wonderful. And I think it's worth celebrating all of it, really. And I just don't see the benefit in them not knowing. I mean, I didn't know. I'm only recently diagnosed, as in December gone at, I'm a decent age, so I didn't know.
21.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I was going to say 25, 26. I'm happy with, but yeah. So I've done, basically my whole life until nearly now, not knowing that I was neurodivergent, and it has caused a lot of sadness for me, I think, from not knowing. Yeah.
Do you think you would have lived life differently had you have known earlier?
100%. Yeah, definitely. I definitely would. Yeah, because it is who you are. It involves every single part of your whole existence, your life. But like, it's all not understand it. That's like a whole missing. You can't understand yourself. Since my diagnosis, like there's been like all of these epiphanies and whatnots. I'm really glad that I have always just been open with them. This is what it is. It's part of us. It's okay. It's good. this is what it means.
I think you raise a good point around, I guess, the importance of sharing, their diagnosis with them. And again, I think it's a case by case. You can't, some will handle it better, but I think you touched on knowing that you understand to a degree your full nature and more about yourself. You're not sort of left with these questions of like, why am I different, or why don't people like me, or why can't I do this? And I think that's a valid point to mention, I guess, for telling kids diagnosis. I've had families who on the both sides, and I do see both sides of the equation, but I think and again, it's probably an age thing as well. There's probably a certain age where it's like, hey, now's a good time. If they're 3 or 4,
See,
they might not.
It was kind of the opposite way for us, because it was just like, it's always been there. It's not something, oh, by the way, I need to tell you. It's just always been there. I saw it in my son from a couple of days old. Like, things were different. Well, not different for me, obviously, but because that's all I've ever known, but different from what I knew of others to be, and watching, my siblings grow up, and, there was always something different. I don't know. I just knew what it was. I just knew. So it was, for us, it was just a formality, the paperwork, really. Like, we knew what it was, what we were going to be dealing with. Well, I did anyway. I mean, obviously I didn't understand like the full impact of it, because I didn't have anything to follow on from, but I don't know, I just knew, and it was just always there. And I don't know, I never saw any reason to need to hide the fact. Like, yeah.
Do you think it has created more challenges for you, or do you think, having been armed with that information, there's been, obviously there's always challenges along the way and finding things, but do you think it's made it a little bit easier for you, or harder to deal with some challenges along the way?
No, look, like I always say, knowledge is power. And it probably, because I'm neurodivergent as well, like, if somebody had a problem with myself because my children were diagnosed autistic, ADHD, or if they had a problem with my children suddenly because they have the label, like, I don't want to deal with like that's just ignorance, and like I don't do stupid very well. Like, I don't suffer it. So like, for me, no, look, if someone's going to be like that, then I don't want them in my life anyway. Like,
yeah,
that's like just a red flag as a human. Really, like, it's
a
personality red flag. No, I don't need any of that. Yeah.
And a common thing I've heard, sadly, is the making of the friends and how hard it is. Have either of your children gone through the not being invited to the birthday parties, or I hear that the day, I'm just like, that's just
look, it's gone in reverse. My kids are in like a pretty close community, and have been since you met. They were like basically toddlers, a little bit older than toddler. So like kindy, and it's been the same kids that have then gone through to the school that they're at. And our school, we're really blessed to have a really fantastic school. We're very well looked after, and it goes from prep all the way through to year 12, same campus. They never have to leave. And so with them coming in as so young into these friendship groups, they sort of always just accepted, well, particularly my son, he's the very typical ASD boy, Sheldon Cooper type type thing. And actually he quite likes calling himself Little Sheldon. Yeah. It was kind of acceptable, like that's just him. We know who he is. That's what he does. That's all fine, because it's not weird to them, because they've just always sort of been around it. When we did have extra children coming in prep, coming from other kindies, right at the start, there were a few things. Now, I put myself in there as parent helper to sort of help with the transition. And some kids were saying some things, why does he do this? Why does he do that? And he went and hid underneath the desks. That's naughty, like these kinds of things. My parents say, la, la, la. And I'm just, so I actually got onto our Facebook page for the class, for the grade. And I just said, hey, I just want to introduce us to people who don't know us. And my son does do these things that your kids are saying. This is why, and from then he gained a whole bunch of friends. It was like the parents did sit down and have the talk with the kids about, this is what it looks like and it's okay and it doesn't mean anything else. So, and it was great for years and years and years. And very recently is when it's stopped. So we're not getting the invitations now. For my daughter, I think it's been long enough that she feels safe enough to drop the mask. But in doing that, everyone else has seen it as a sudden thing, that she's suddenly doing these things. No, it was always happening, just not in front of you guys, So that's unfortunately ended a lot of friendships for her, and is obviously then not getting the invitations to the party. My son, actually, it's been a good couple of years now. His difference in social emotional development is now really pronounced, whereas before it was just, the other kids were not mature, and that's where their behaviours were coming from. Whereas my kid is actually quite mature, but has the autistic behaviours. And so now that they're maturing, and he's still sort of where they view him as having been in the past. Yeah. So and that's hard. Yeah.
What do you think, as a parent, has been your biggest challenge on this whole journey, and how have you overcome it? If you have.
Yeah, right. See, because I was about to, I'm like,
if you have, it's okay. If you haven't,
I probably only say that it's my biggest challenge because it's what I'm in at the moment, and that's loneliness. And I think a lot of that has come hand in hand with my daughter losing her friends, because most of my friends were parents of her friends. And so now there's just no reason for us to meet or be together, like it just, those sorts of things falling away. That's at the moment what feels like the hardest.
So basically they're losing friends, but you're at the same time dwindling groups as well, which
and the week that makes weekends hard, and that kind of business as well. I can't go somewhere that I want to go if my children aren't going to be welcome there, So social isolation is the thing at the moment. But I mean, if you had have asked me a couple of years ago, I might have said something like therapists jumping providers, finding a therapist, wait lists, medication trials, big behaviours. We used to have big problems with really massive behaviours, and I'm only one person, and if one's melting down, the other one's feeding off that, and it used to be like a war zone. So it's not that anything's more challenging than anything else, because I feel like everything is challenging.
Just one to the next.
It's just that which one are we in? And I don't know, how do you overcome them? You just find a way. I don't like to use the autism mums or autism parents sort of title as a banner, but however, I think we become really resourceful just because we need to. You just find a way. You try lots of things, you know, you ask on the Facebook group, you figure it out, and then therapists.
I think what I like what you touched on about trying a lot of things, and you know, in my one-on-one sessions, I've seen that sort of, and we always trying to bring on other team members and explaining that sort of, you can't go in with this structure of today we're doing X, Y, and Z. We're trying to do this, and every 2 seconds you might be like, oh, don't like that, let's do this. Let's do this. And then eventually you'll find something that'll be like, that's interesting. And then you can expand from that. And then 10 minutes later, it's like, I've had enough of that. And it's like, oh, let's do this.
And then immediately you're on the next one. You've got to be ready with that next one. You know, like, I mean, raising a child, you need a bag of tricks. But I feel like raising a spectrum child, your bag of tricks has to be like a Mary Poppins type situation. You know, you just keep pulling them out. And you cannot have rigid thinking, because what works for one child, you know, like they say, if you've met one person on the spectrum, you've met one person on the spectrum.
Yeah.
You know, this might be a wonderful fidget for one child, and then the other kid's just like, I don't know. No.
So yeah, the only exception I think is Minecraft or Roblox.
Oh yeah, sorry. You're right on that.
That's the one constant. It's like, hey, you like
video games? Just full stop. Like,
yes. That's the one.
It's the one you can go back to. Yeah.
So that's my trick. It's like, oh, they've been difficult. Oh, so what Roblox game do you play? And then it's just like, oh my god, dirty trick, but it works. So
whatever works.
Have you got any? Right. Yeah. So I guess that feeds into my next question around, you know, tips and advice for other parents. I think you touched on that nicely in terms of having that bag of tricks. I think
really and just an open mind about what you put in it. And I'm talking metaphorically, because we've got those as well. We've got, you know, sensory boxes. You know, I'm angry. These are the things that I like to help calm me down when I'm angry. So we go to that box, open the lid, start just whatever, and pre-planning. We're going to go to XYZ a place. What could that look like? What might I have to have on ready to go for redirection? Being really open about what might work. You know, maybe it's a spoon. It smells clean, you know, like it doesn't have an odor, you know, it feels cold. Not always the thing that you think it's going to be. In fact, it'll probably never be the thing that you think it's going to be. Yeah, and just roll with it.
Basically, as a parent, you have to be like a Swiss Army knife, eh? You just have to be any possibility. Yeah.
Like my boy says, in a universe of infinite possibilities. So
I can so see him saying that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
If you could, I guess, and again, we've sort of covered over it, give one piece of advice to parents who are just new to this sort of, just their child's just had their diagnosis, and whether it's around funding or plans or anything, what would your go-to tip be? Like, you need to do X.
First of all, I think the first thing that you need to do is remember that your child is exactly the same child after you have a piece of paper that says this is your diagnosis. It's the same child. Nothing's changed. I would say, early intervention. Get yourself like an advocate, an advocate who's very knowledgeable, and they will be able to steer you in the right direction because it gets complex. I have mine. My autism Yoda is what I call her. She's never leaving.
Yeah. She's not allowed.
And if she is, we're going with her, you know, sort of thing.
Chained in your basement, is she?
No, I let her roam free, although she actually is at the moment. School with my son, doing therapy with him at the moment. Find your person that can be your go-to, that either that you know that they've got the answer for you, or that they can tell you where to get it from. I know that I have a lot less stress than so many other parents just because of that difference.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. And I love what you said about the piece of paper doesn't change who they are.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's an important...
And I know that, look, that had been told to me back when that happened, but I actually didn't fully understand it until I got my piece of paper. And then I was like, whoa, hang on. Well, that means I'm this now. I'm like, no, actually, like nothing changed. Ticking boxes on a piece of paper, that doesn't change a human.
Yeah. No, great advice. Thank you. I guess just finishing up, any other things that you want to mention or share?
Don't be afraid of it, I think. Yeah, don't be afraid. I mean, if people aren't going to accept things, and do you really want those people around you? There's a whole tribe out there of people who will. And no, you're not always going to be able to stay around those same types of people, but let it go.
You gonna sing for us?
No, you don't want that. That's my daughter.
So side quest missions is the ability to be able to connect families with other families. So I guess my question, are you open to people connecting with you?
It takes a village.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm like a friend matchmaker. I'm just like, oh, you can be.
Are you registered? Are you registered for that?
And it's funny actually. I've said a couple times, Joe, because it is such a common thing. They don't have any friends, and I've sort of said a couple times, like, hey, I'll be your best friend until you find your best friend. Like,
yeah,
and that best friend online, like, hey, until you get your best friend, yeah, I can be your best friend. Genuinely care about that, and just giving kids somebody to talk to, and you know,
it's really important. It's really important, and and that's the thing. I think often our spectrumy kids are considered to be despondent, but they actually genuinely do want a connection with people. What I have found, though, in that area is it's like we've all got little beacons, and we tend to find each other out in the wild. Eventually, one day there will be that other kid that sits with their back towards your kid playing in the sand. It'll happen, but you have to put yourself out there, and it's hard, but you have to do it. Yeah, otherwise, like, the lonely comes way sooner.
I think getting from you, parents need that connection as well, and need to nurture that, because again, we all need that connection, don't we?
Yeah, because it can become like all encompassing at times. So you know, being able to have someone that you can talk to who like gets it is a big deal.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for sharing stories, and I reckon a lot of people will get a lot of goodness out of what you've shared in your. Thank you for being on my podcast.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully it does some good for somebody. Yeah,
and if they want to connect with you, I can pass on your details, and let you guys connect, and make yourself friends, and get the kids friends, and You set that beacon up and
yeah, right, and sit in the sand.
and like not playing with each other, but actually playing with each other. That's my best friend, but you don't talk and you don't do anything.
And then the one word comes out, Roblox, and then they turn and they hold hands and walk off into the sunset. Best friends.
Best friends forever.
What was your best friend's name? Oh, I don't know.
Well, you like this game?
Friend. Yeah.
That's funny. So.